It's been 3 years since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the largest and deadliest conflict in Europe since World War II. The war continues to exert a devastating impact on the Ukrainian people, with consequences for the security of us all. So where does Ukraine stand now, and is the end of the conflict in sight? Well, here, shown in red, you can see the areas currently under Russian control. It's around 20% of Ukraine. Russia is gaining ground more quickly than at any time since it launched this full-scale invasion in February 2022. Back in May last year, Russian forces crossed the international border and seized several villages in Kharkiv. This was by far the most significant ground assault since the start of the war, opening a new front and stretching Ukrainian forces. But by early June, it was reported the Russian front line had been stalled, with fighting in a bitter stalemate. Meanwhile, Russia continues to bombard Ukrainian cities. Since the fighting began, the UN estimates there have been over 12,000 civilians killed. Almost 700 of those are children. And more than 28,000 people have been injured, though the real figures are likely to be even higher. Millions more have had their lives uprooted. Over 6.5 million people have fled Ukraine, with over 14.5 million dependent on humanitarian aid. In December, Russian forces were further boosted when President Vladimir Putin called on North Korea to supply troops as part of a defense deal. It attracted global attention as Pyongyang sent more than 10,000 troops to Ukraine, its largest military deployment to a foreign conflict in its almost 80-year history. A boost for Russian numbers, but it's difficult to say how effective their impact has been. And it's reported they've now pulled out after heavy losses. It's estimated Moscow is suffering over 1,000 casualties every day, according to NATO. With staggering losses on the battlefield, could the cost of this war push Putin to the negotiating table? And there also remains the question of Donald Trump, who's not well known for his love of Ukraine. The US president boasted he could end the war within 24 hours of taking office. Trump has demanded Russian President Vladimir Putin make a deal to end the war in Ukraine, threatening economic consequences in the form of tariffs, Trump's favourite weapon, but it seems to have had little effect. With Ukraine outmanned and outgunned and Western support flagging, particularly from the US, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is being forced to reassess his goals. Rather than aiming to expel Russia from all Ukrainian territory, the aim now is to prevent any further Russian incursion and move towards negotiating a peace deal. The challenge for Trump will be persuading Putin to negotiate and negotiate in good faith to reach a settlement that Russia can accept. That is something that will take far longer than 24 hours.